Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me. Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire. As the debate and controversy over our country's name rages on whether it should be India or Bharat, my guest shines a fine light on why the founding fathers of our constitution embraced the name India. It wasn't because they were fond of it, but it was for good, possibly strategic reasons. Joining me now to explain his views is one of India's former top diplomats, former ambassador to Afghanistan and Myanmar, Vivek Katju. Mr. Katju has also asked me to explain that he keeps away from politics as much as he can. Mr. Katju, in an article you wrote for the Hindu newspaper yesterday, Thursday the 7th, you said it was important for our country to take the name India so that we could be recognized as the successor state to British India. Can you begin by explaining why was it important to be recognized as the successor state?
Karan, for one, India had been one of the founding members of the United Nations in 1945, even though at that stage it was a British colony, technically. Uh, India had, even as a colony, had an international personality. And I think the leaders of the freedom movement wanted that personality to be retained. Now, as I've tried to briefly mention in my article to which you referred, the technically our freedom came through a transfer of power from the British to Indian hands, as it were. And this was governed by the India Independence Act passed by the British Parliament, which decided to partition the country and take away British paramountcy from the Indian states. So most of the Indian states, while they advised the Indian states to join one of the two dominions that were being created, Pakistan, and the name of Pakistan was clear because the Muslim League had asked for Pakistan, and that, if you recollect, in 1940, in their resolution uh, in Lahore. Now, at that stage, the Muslim League, led by Jinnah, was very keen to assert that there were two successor states coming in uh, following the creation of two dominions. Now, Indian leaders said that Pakistan, or the parts of uh, what was being constituted as Pakistan, was seceding from India. And there was a terrific struggle over this, including in the UN. All kinds of legal arguments were mentioned, etc. Finally, and Pakistan, incidentally, suggested that there would be Pakistan and Hindustan or Bharat. We stuck to our guns, and our argument that we were the successor state, and if you are the successor state, it meant that you automatically came into all the agreements that the British had entered into with, say, neighbors, or with international organizations, uh, as the government of India, distinct from the British government in England. Uh, So, and this was especially in relationship to the UN. So we came in as the successor state, and Pakistan had to apply and gain an international personality, which it did through an application to become a member of the UN, which, as I've noted in my article, interestingly was opposed by Afghanistan.
You've raised many important issues there. Let's take them up one by one. Let me begin by saying how much of a disadvantage or how serious a problem would India have faced if it had not been recognized as the successor state?
Well, for one, we would have had to apply to the United Nations again, and we would have, it would then have been a new country, so to speak, like Pakistan came into being. For another, we would have had to go back to all the countries with which we had agreements, and I would imagine to tell them that, look, uh, we this new country has been formed, quote unquote new country has been formed in international legal terms, and we are going to we would like to inherit or follow the agreements which exist.
So a lot of cumbersome work was saved because we embraced the name India and therefore ensured we were the successor
No,
state.
no. There was one other reason, if you permit me to say, which I think is important. I think the Pakistani game was in pursuit of their two nation theory to say that, look, we are Pakistan, and Pakistan denotes the land of the Muslims, as they've always, as the Muslim League maintained, and we are separate from Hindustan, which is, or Bharat, which is the land of the Hindus. And as you know, the two nation theory was rejected outright by the uh, the Congress Party and other leaders of the freedom movement, even though it became necessary for them to accept partition. So I think that was also something playing in the mind of the leaders at that stage, that it is important to maintain the word India, especially in its international personality, because that was existing.
You're making two very important points, and I'll quickly sum them up for the audience. By retaining the name India, we were first of all recognized as the successor state, and all the agreements that the government of India under British control had signed, including membership of the UN, automatically were inherited by us. But the second point you're making is to do specifically with Jinnah. He wanted India to take the name Hindustan or Bharat because he believed that would legitimize his two nation theory. Because one would be then Pakistan, a Muslim state, the other would be Bharat or Hindustan, a Hindu state. By retaining the name India, we effectively scuppered what Jinnah was trying to do.
I think you are right. At the same time, there was a sentiment in India. There was a stream of thought which believed that the word Bharat, which was an ancient name for our land. I know there's a and I'm no expert at this, and there's a fair degree of debate going on. What are the roots of Bharat? How did the term Bharat emerge? What did it denote? But there was in 1947, as today, that look, this is the traditional name. So a happy compromise, I would imagine, or an adjustment, an accommodation was arrived at, where in English we said India, and that was the term used for our international personality. But at the same time, in Hindi and other regional languages where necessary, we said that the term for ourselves would be Bharat or variants of Bharat.
Absolutely. Now, in your Hindu article, you also point out that if we only use the name Bharat, this could create concerns for states like Tamil Nadu, Telangana, and Andhra because they don't use the word Bharat, they use Bharatam. Could you explain that point a little further?
Look, I think there was a time which is happily past when there was a fear in some parts of southern India and the southern states that there was an attempt at imposing Hindi. And I am a firm believer that that sentiment should never be revived. Therefore, my feeling is that at the moment the situation has is stable, and the term India is used in English. The term Bharat is used in Hindi. Its variants are used in the regional languages, and there has been no debate or controversy in this respect. Now, if we start saying that the name of our country is Bharat, now in the Hindi speaking states, I think that would be acceptable. But there can be some people who would say that no, the term should be Bharatam. That is the term we are used to. And at this stage of our national development, Karan, when we face enormous strategic challenges, I think our national energies have to be devoted to meeting those challenges and not get diverted into controversies or debates which, to my mind, do not contribute to meeting those challenges.
In fact, you end your Hindu article with precisely that thought. You write, the tradition of using India in English and Bharat in Hindi is wise and constitutionally correct. And then you ask the question, should its change be a priority now? Clearly, your view is this is not a priority. Don't seek to make the change. We have a happy established equilibrium. Let's stick to it.
I think you're absolutely right. Th- what strategic purpose? And I'm underlining the word strategic because I do believe that today the country faces enormous strategic challenges. It faces enormous developmental challenges. And I ask myself this question that by a change in name, would we in any way contribute to meeting those challenges?
You've
Uh,
raised, sorry, carry on.
and I think our priority has to be that. I'm happy you said that I'm away from politics, which I am, but at my stage in life, can, I only think in terms of India's progress and in terms of India's development, in terms of meeting the strategic challenges which come from China, for example. I mean, that has to be our priority. And therefore, I feel that look, we've reached this happy equilibrium, and I've tried to illustrate this uh, by saying that in English we say India, in Hindi we say uh, Bharat. The president till now has been using that in her communications uh, including in when she gives letters of credence to ambassadors, which is uh, a very formal communication from one head of state to another head of state appointing an envoy. But there's another issue. And that is the question I asked myself. I have not elaborated that in my article because of space, where I said that the Arabs use the word Hind for us. The Persians uh, and the Afghans, Dari, as you know, is a dialect of Persian. Its roots are in Persian. They said Hindustan. What is the word that Netaji used? He used Hind. For the Indian National Army, what was the term used in our language? Azad Hind Fauj, if I correctly remember.
And can I point out from my personal experience that the army greeting when soldiers meet each other or when soldiers meet officers and they don't salute because you only salute when you're wearing a cap, the army greeting is Jai Hind. It's very
Precisely.
important to remember that it is Jai Hind, it is not Jai India or Jai Bharat, it is Jai Hind. But I want to repeat the question that you raised when you began this answer. What strategic purpose is served by a change of name to only Bharat? And what you're saying is we have a happy equilibrium. Let's not stir it and end up finding we're fishing in troubled waters. We don't need these problems. Let's stay with the happy equilibrium that we've established for 75 years.
Uh, Karan, language is very emotive. I'm not quite sure what would be the reaction by removing the word India, say and focusing only on Bharat in a state like Tamil Nadu.
Absolutely.
I don't know. It could well be accepted happily, in which case it's fine. But the question is that this is a matter which at least the political class should consider.
Yes, this is a risk you do not need to take. Why take it? Let me end by putting one last question to you. Shashi Tharoor has said, and I'm quoting him, that the name India has incalculable brand value internationally built up over centuries. Don't squander it by refusing to use that name. Would you agree?
Look, I'll tell you this. I think when names change, there's a time lag between people getting used to the new name. And the new name then in time gets accepted. There is a hiatus. Now, I think what Shashi Tharoor is pointing to is that why create a hiatus, right? Ceylon became Sri Lanka. Everyone's got used to it. Everyone uses Sri Lanka. And earlier on, it was Ceylon tea. Now it is Sri Lankan tea. So I'm not, I must confess, so much concerned about the this hiatus. It can be bridged. The new brands can be created. I mean, there are ways of doing it, and in this age of social media, it can be done perhaps more rapidly than in the past. What I'm more concerned is about what would be the impact on sentiment in India, because language is emotive. Now, some people are saying, and some of my colleagues have pointed out to me, that in different Indian languages, variants of the word Bharat are used for our country, for India, for our country. But the question is that, say, will that variant of, or let me put it another way, would Bharat be automatically acceptable, or will voices arise from some parts that no, it should be our variant that should be used?
Absolutely, sir.
Then
You've
why
explained
get
this
into
point.
it? Why
You've
get into it?
explained this point very fully. You've alerted us to three things that are very important. The careful consideration, maybe even I could use the word the strategic calculation that lay behind the framers of our constitution embracing the word India, because we wanted to be seen as the successor state. Secondly, we wanted to avoid the pitfall that Jinnah was pushing us to, which is to use Hindustan and Bharat only, because then that would have legitimized his two-nation theory, which we were extremely keen should never be legitimized. And then there's thirdly the point you've made, that there are many variants in the country for the word Bharat. How do we know that Bharat alone will be acceptable? Language, as you say, is an emotive issue. When you have a happy equilibrium, don't risk fracturing it when you don't need to. I thank you for this interview, Mr. Katju. Take care, stay safe, and let me end by saying, long live India and Jai Hind.
And I would also say Jai Bharat.
Absolutely. Take care.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Karan Thapar. Over the last few years, I hope you've been watching my program, The Interview on the Wire. During that period, I've interviewed doctors, politicians, businessmen, scientists, authors, and even the occasional Nobel laureate. For me, it's been exciting. I hope it's been enjoyable for you. But these, as you know, are tough times, and if this program is going to remain bold, independent, and sometimes even defiant, then I think we need your support. At the end of the day, it's a truism, but editorial independence is best defended by the viewers. So if you would like this program to remain the way it is, forthright, outspoken, and interesting, then would you consider supporting us? All you have to do is to click on the description at the bottom. But more than anything else, I hope you will continue to watch the interview. Your viewership means an awful lot to me.